All right. Sorry, I was muted. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Hi, Sid.
Hi. Nice to meet you all. How's it going?
Good. How's your day so far?
It's going well. Yeah. And yours?
Good. Let me introduce myself, and I'll give the introduction about the job, and then we can go from there. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Myself, I'm Ramesh, and I'm the digital manager for product software and cybersecurity for a division called Core Diagnostics within Abbott. We support like various blood-related products and also diagnostic products within Abbott. Our primary focus is on medical products. However, we manage the manufacturing parts, elements of the medical products, and also the associated reagents for the division.
Okay.
Raheel?
Hi, Sid. So I'm Raheel. I am the project manager slash program manager. I pretty much manage the entire team, and I also am responsible to manage various streams that are within this program. Uh, Ramesh is going to explain you how the what streams we manage and how the teams are incorporated in them. We are a global team, so we do work with various manufacturing sites across the world. So my primary job is basically to make sure that I work with the internal teams and external teams to make sure that we deliver the result. So that's what my role is, and that's about it, I guess, from my side. Ramesh, over to you.
I'll give right. Like we are, as I mentioned, we support manufacturing and non-manufacturing sites, but primary focus is on manufacturing. And
When you say
we
manufacturing,
have
like, so I'm aware, like, is it more of a pharmaceutical and medical devices company, that
a
sort of thing,
medical
right?
product, yeah, medical
Yeah, I actually
devices.
have,
We
I know some people that work, at least one friend that works there in a
that's
different
nice.
area, but
Yeah, different. Okay, okay. So we have the IT systems.
yeah.
Coming to IT systems, we have the the cloud systems, standalone systems, client server where servers are hosted within Abbott data centers. And also we have the manufacturing equipment we call as a PUE system that includes the custom systems that we buy from vendor, systems that are used for R&D. And in that you will have systems like PLCs, firmwares, like standard commercial optical system or something sometimes custom,
Hmm.
depending on, we have wide variety of systems that we have to follow based on the emerging regulations. We are required that all of our quality impact systems need to be in compliance with either the NIST framework or European NIS2 European directive, as we have the manufacturing sites across the board. So we are looking, we manage like the quality compliance of these systems, and we have like 3,000 plus assets that we need to perform assessments for these assets. We're working with the system owners who are based in Europe, based in Lake County or in Dallas or in Asia. We have to work with them and kind of do this.
When you
So
say
first thing,
assets, like 3,000, like data sources, or do you mean like
no,
different?
different systems,
Oh,
different
okay.
different systems. You'll have like small, medium, large scale, depending on in a manufacturing world, there'll be a system that will be used for water purification. There'll be some system used for filling the station. There'll be some using for inspection. They'll be using for automation. They'll be using for the quality perspective. Some elements they'll be using for incoming inspection. They'll be using for storing them. So there's a lot of systems. We are a huge organization. So
Yeah,
across the board,
it looks
you're
like
going to
it.
have a large one,
Yeah,
right?
like very big supply
Yeah.
chain, very many different components. Yeah,
Many different.
yeah.
Yeah. So to set the context here, we as like any corporate company, we have teams across the board that manages like at enterprise you have the cybersecurity teams that the Splunk team is there.
Yeah.
There's vulnerability team. There's one like nucleus tool that kind of aggregates all reports from all cybersecurity tools and kind of aggregates. Like there are like teams across the board.
Hmm.
What we do is we review these policies, procedures, we interact with them, and we understand the technical requirements, and you convert into functional, and uh, you know either implement these processes at manufacturing sites by working with the sites, plus for each system by working with the system owners, you have to do the assessments that are in compliance with NIS2 framework or NIS2 T framework, depending on with case by case, we have to do an assessment for it. So this is not pure technical, just being heads up. This is techno functional where you need to have technical understanding on how these things will work. And you need to have the functional to translate into layman terms. And we need to engage with the system owners and educate them. Is where we're looking. First of all, like, is something you're interested before we continue on this entry?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is exactly like echoing the previous experience that I've had. So I had, I got started at a startup in Texas. That was a cloud sim company. And so that's where I learned my basic analytic skills and actually implemented, you know, doing very scripting using Linux and Python and collecting data, doing site reliability engineering, doing application support on AWS, doing resource management, all of those things. And I got to look at actually how a company functions, and they threw me around all different departments, and I learned a lot from that. But then when I actually worked with PwC for my consulting engagement, doing the threat modeling case, that's where I learned, there's actually a lot of stakeholder communication, and that sort of navigating that bureaucracy, right? That's a very different thing in these big companies, right? And so we were working with a financial client and dealing with like privileged MNPI data, material non-public information. So this was like a very high level project that I was called on for because of my subject matter experience for the software company that I was previously working at, which they were implementing to develop their use cases. And so that consulting is actually something I'm much more interested in, and this exactly what you're describing. Talking to different parts, different stakeholders, different system owners, and actually developing a solution from that. That's something that very much interests me, rather than just sitting down and just doing like straight coding or something like that. Actually developing a needs-based solution. This is what it sounds like to me. It sounds very similar to the consulting experience that I have and my engineering background as well. But I did have a few questions actually. So how many is there a risk and security department within Abbott, or are they using like MSSPs and like third
We
party?
have teams across the board. Each stream has its own team that they manage
I see.
across the board.
I see. Because one of the problems that I faced at my previous engagement was, we had like 20 different business units that we were trying to, get a hold of the various data owners, and that was actually in that scenario, it was a difficult situation because they didn't really know how to work with us, and I think that's part of the consulting experience. But I guess at a large, you know, major corporation like Abbott, I think that might be more.
We don't have we don't have this issue. We have pretty much the processes defined, is set. We are looking at someone who can join the team, quickly understand the process, and kind of run the program along with the rest of the team is what we're looking at.
Okay. No, that sounds fantastic. Continue. Yeah, you can let me know what like what I mean, I'm trying to understand exactly what the ecosystem looks like. It's hard, for based on the job description, like
Sure. Probably I'll
like at a more technical, like what are the bill of materials and
okay. So
tools
we
and
have
platforms,
tools like we have the systems, right? Like we have like example an NIST framework. Based on the NIST framework, we have some list of questionnaire that we have. So you have to engage the system owner. We already have set up framework that we already set up. We need to engage them and kind of for this system, kind of see how the specific systems are in compliance with these requirements. Is what we do, and we have some procedures in place that need to leverage and kind of drive the initiation. Because we also do like example threat models. We also focus on vulnerability management, kind of engaging with the site contacts and collaborate with them and give them some guidance and see evaluate the reports from our perspective with the controls we have is in a nutshell, those are the three things we're looking.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think
Okay.
that's perfect.
Okay. So let's start with this, right? Like, do you have any understanding about NIST framework and also NIS2 framework, European directive?
So I'm not as familiar with the European directive, but the NIST framework is something that's very standard. The National Institute of Standards and Technology. They have their CSF, cybersecurity framework, which is a generic outline of the process that you can follow when you're solving any cybersecurity related issue. It's something that in my experience I haven't had to directly like work with or reference. I mean, we have that, just as a general outline. I was more specifically working, with the MITRE ATT&CK framework because I was actually using those TTPs, those tactics, techniques, and procedures. But then, NIST was like in the back for that general documentation and framework, right? And outlining those objectives to like the business guys, and understanding, helping them understand, where these technical implementations are actually affecting the business and the business continuity, right? And so it's something, it's like I look at it like documentation to reference. It's not something that I would, be, uh, like have difficulty with or anything like that.
Okay. So you mentioned that you worked on threat modeling, right? Can you tell us what is your understanding of threat model, what you do, which methodology you followed?
Yeah, so I was actually using a product from Securonics, and so they were so we actually worked with the Splunk subject matter experts in order to aggregate all of the logs and data sources and platform information into Splunk, and from there we were working with the client where they were using uh, another tool called AnmaLogic, which was customizing and filtering those detections. And then I was brought in specifically for the user behavior analytics component of the threat modeling. And
Mhm.
so when you have, alerting that triggers, right? We have like these individual alerts that might trigger, right? Let's say somebody is accessing a resource from a geolocation that is very uncommon or unlikely, right? So that kind of alert will trigger, right? But in these complex scenarios, like for specifically developing a threat model for SharePoint, which I did, um, we had to correlate all of these different types of alerts in various combinations and sequences so that even though that individual scenarios or alerts might trigger and be very highly likely, right? So the likelihood is very high individually, which creates a lot of false positives, right? But when you create correlated detections and you refine that logic, it reduces the likelihood of all of those. It basically creates a security policy which triggers in the unlikely scenario, right, where there is an outlier in the data, and you are trying to catch that anomaly where there might be a threat, right? And so that's what it does. And specifically, I actually incorporated, peer group analysis as well, which was not in the statement of work at my previous engagement. And so I worked with like the data loss prevention team and also the user behavior, the Securonics subject matter expert, in order to refine that logic even further, so that you could narrow it down to the individual business unit and understand where people are accessing resources or different parts of the system where they shouldn't be, or in most cases they wouldn't be, right? And so basically, threat modeling is correlating all of these things in a way that refines and your alerting system in order to reduce the number of false positives and actually give you something that you can work with and pass on to the SOC teams. So
Okay.
that's what it,
So
yeah, yeah.
for the threat modeling, what methodology did you follow?
So generally speaking, like the Stride framework, that's very good developed by I think Microsoft. But basically, I was working with the Certified Information Security Manager, and so
Mhm.
we were following that framework, and then also the correlating that with MITRE and the tactics and techniques, right? Like collection and privilege escalation, lateral movement, exfiltration, these sorts of things. Eh, and then performing, they were also performing, we also performed like risk assessment workshops. So I was sent to New York City and New Jersey to meet with these stakeholders as well. So that was in order to meet with my director and managing director, and actually trying to come up with use cases that are relevant to the statement of work and that resolve the needs of the organization, right? So I'm able
What
to do that as well.
Okay, so why did you guys choose strike methodology?
It gives a very good, so like, you have like spoofing, tampering, what is it? Repudiation, uh, information disclosure, denial of service, and exfiltration, I believe. And so these at a very high level, it gives you a framework where you can explore each individual threat vector, right? It's not a comprehensive uh, framework by any means, right? You still want to dive deep into each of those and then correlate it with some other useful metric, like in our case, the MITRE framework or the NIST framework. But it gives a general overview that you can follow, that gives you some clarity into how to solve an enterprise level or a larger problem.
Right.
Sorry?
I was saying my teammate right then.
Come. So, Sid, question for you: what are your experiences with vulnerability management? So once these processes go in place, for example, you talked about the risk assessments, you talked about the threat modeling. So what do we do once the risk is identified? How how were they remediated?
Yeah, so the first thing is obviously identifying all the assets and resources, right? Like we have like a CMDB where we can look at all those resources across the organization. So we have to first take inventory of all of that, what's available, right? And then once we do that, we can perform the vulnerability assessments, use various tools like Nessus or Qualys, for example, that for software vulnerabilities. And then when we run those scans, it just gives us data that we still need to have you know, uh, a human looking at, obviously, in order to have context, because there's going to be a lot of data or false, positives or information that
So when
gets.
these systems spit out the data, right?
Yeah.
When you gather the data, um, how do you figure out like which one do you want to go after first, which one can wait? Like how do you prioritize these vulnerabilities? Because the scan would spit out like
Yeah.
probably in thousands, right?
Yeah, of course.
Depending upon the size of the company. But how do you prioritize those vulnerabilities?
Yeah, so this is where we have to do triage and assess the severity of each of those issues, right? And so we have the CVSS scoring system that's really helpful in doing that. That's publicly available on those known exposures, right? And vulnerabilities that are very common. So that gives you an outline just to categorize, like a 9.8 would be very high severity, right? And so you would consider that over a 5 on the CVSS scoring scale, right? But then you also have to actually consider what is the actual impact to your organization, and what is the resource in question. If it's like privileged financial, like HIPAA information, let's say, that's NPI, right? Or sorry, not NPI. PII, right? So we don't want that at a healthcare organization. That's going to be a really high quality asset, right? That you want to protect. And so I would be categorizing that at high severity, no matter what that is, right? So
Okay.
yeah.
So let me ask you another question, more a case-based thing. So you're working in a manufacturing environment, right? And you're told that there are several systems that are there. In terms of access control, they don't want the access to be restricted. It's an open access system. So the question is, how are you going to protect that system? What controls or remediations would you have in place to make sure that the system is protected? They don't want individual sign-ons. They don't want individual accounts. By design, the manufacturing floor is the way that they want one sign-on ID that everyone on the floor can access. How do you remediate that such system, or what controls would you have in place?
Interesting. Okay, so you're saying there's it was single credential that everyone on the manufacturing floor is using to sign in to use this program or software or whatever, right?
Correct.
I think in that's not a good security, best practice, but that's the first recommendation I would give them, that we need to have some sort of individual like credentialing, right? And then in the absence of that, like we need to have some sort of access controls, right? Like there has to be some sort of individual identifier. We have things like role-based access control. If a rule-based and
So you get into role-based access control, you're getting into individual accounts, right? We don't have that option.
yeah, we don't have that option. So
Correct.
in that case, I'm trying to think. Give me a few seconds.
Take your time.
Mm-hmm. Are we able to individually identify any of the users at all? Or, do they have some sort of, uh, I mean, we would have, say, timestamps, for example, like just generic login data, right, of any user who accesses that info the system, right? So we would have that, but we wouldn't be able to identify who the individual user is unless there's physical security cameras monitoring the access point or the computer terminal. Maybe that's one way to do it. It's a very manual way, but yeah, AI facial recognition, that sort of thing. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I asked you this is because we ran into that situation recently, and as challenging as it is to kind of have some sort of controls in such facility or scenarios, what we found was more beneficial is the increased amount of physical security
physical, yeah.
instead of going in. Yeah, so like you mentioned about the cameras and the utilities of that nature, that would come in handy, but the business desired that they would not want to create those individual accounts, or they don't want to create any more IDs or role-based stuff within their sign-on. So in those scenarios, obviously the physical security comes in more handy rather than the traditional way of remediating things. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ramesh, that's all from me. But thank you. Thanks, Sid.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Do you have any questions for us, Sid?
I mean, I think I would be a great fit for the role, but if you could tell me this was a really good point that Rahil brought up, like a pain point in the organization. Are there any other like pain points similar to that you guys have been trying to address?
Well, it's case by case nature, and you'll find out more once you once if the decision is made to get you started with the organization. I do have one follow up question. Sorry, I lied earlier that I don't have any questions.
No
So.
worries.
You do understand that I want to make sure that we clarify this, that this is an on-site position. So which means that you would be required to be on site at least 4 days out of the week. Is that going to be a problem?
Not at all. What days is there like a day that employees typically come into office?
So generally we ask Monday through Thursday is what we ask that people should be on site. And given that how much visibility this cybersecurity has, you'll find out when you get started with the management and how things work out with this. We would absolutely expect that the tardiness is one of the big things that we go after. So I just want to make sure that I clear this out right in the beginning, that this is not a remote position by all means. It is an in-person position. Wanted to make sure that you're going to be okay with that.
Yeah, there's no confusion regarding that. I saw that in the role as well. Even I think I saw the timings like 8:30 to 4:30 or something like that.
Yeah,
it's like very specific,
yeah.
but yeah, I mean that's not a problem.
That time is half an hour here and there. We are flexible.
Okay.
Half an hour here and there, max 1 hour. We just work like normal business working hours in CST time, and it's more it's a company policy being on site.
Okay. So what does the team look like actually? When it on site actually. Like how big is the team that I would be directly working with?
So in my team, at least like in our department directly in cybersecurity, we have 4 members. And in the department, we are split across here. There are some in Lake County. We have some team here. There's some in Dallas. There's some in Wiesbaden. And there's one in Poland.
Oh, really?
They're kind of
Okay.
split across.
I'm actually in Dallas right now because I'm traveling for some work that I do. So it's incredibly hot over here.
Yeah,
It's crazy. But no, that's
so
awesome.
so are you local to Chicago or are
Oh
you?
yeah, I actually live there. I just have some family here. I work with event production. This is like something I do on the side. So yeah, I'm just here traveling right now, but I'll be back pretty shortly.
Okay.
Yeah.
The main thing is it's not a pure technical role. This is techno-functional. So you're absolutely comfortable with that, right?
Can you repeat that?
This is not pure technical. This is techno-functional.
Techno-functional. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for purely technical. I want to be able to communicate with the other people and actually solve a larger functional problem, right? I think I like using, especially with AI in the mix now, I've been doing a lot of experimenting with that as well. And it's like I find myself not doing a lot of the raw tasks that I was doing, but it's still, there's so much that's happening, and I'm sure the company is going through some internal transformations as well, right? I was wondering, yeah, what does it look like in terms of, using LLMs and that sort of thing within the company?
We are a GXP impact system. We are dealing with patient health. Unless it's proven, we cannot take chance in terms of impacting any patient's health at all. So if anything that doesn't have direct impact on patient health, that is where something that unless it's proven, we're very cautious on what we are done. The sales sides and servicing, that's where we are adopting for AI. But in terms of directly that might impact the patient life, is we're extra cautious. We're not there for patients.
Yeah, I think from a security standpoint, that's very good. Probably, but I know a lot of like these consulting firms, they have like in-house versions, like PwC has an in-house version of ChatGPT, for example, right? But I was just curious. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. No, you're fine. So when you said that you're in Dallas at the moment, so when would you be? When are you expected back? Because what's going to happen is here we're conducting the interviews today, right? So we have a couple of more scheduled for today, and then I think next week we're going to do the same thing as well. We have we'll be interviewing people throughout the week. Once the list is finalized, the second round of interviews would be on site. So this is why I need to ask you that when are you expected back, and so we can see how things are going to work out, because obviously once we shortlist the candidates, if your name is on the list, then at that time you are going to reach out, or the recruiter is going to reach out to you to schedule an on-site interview.
Yeah, I was actually planning to come fly to Chicago in a couple of weeks. I'm still looking at flights to find out, what's works for me. But if I have a second interview scheduled on site, then that would give me the sooner I know the better it would help me. Then I can just book the flights, right? But I'm flexible on that, so I'm ready to come as soon as I need to.
Okay, so you said a couple of weeks. So okay, so probably we can expect you back in the week of June 6th. Is that correct? Not June 6th, I'm sorry, July 6th.
Yes, yeah. I was like going back to, I wish this year's been going by so quickly. I wish I could go back.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. All right, well, it was a pleasure meeting you, Sid. It was a pleasure talking to you. Ramesh, do you have any questions?
No, good. Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, perfect. So then what we'll do is we're going to wrap up these interviews. We are going to shortlist the candidates. And once we have identified those candidates, we're going to notify our recruiting team, and they would probably reach out to you for a second interview if you qualify for that round. Until then, have a fantastic time in Dallas and hope to see you soon.
All right, thank you so much. It was a pleasure
All
speaking to
right.
both of you. And yeah, looking
Absolutely.
forward to hearing back.
Sure. Sure thing. Thank you.
All right, thank you.